You're listening to Blue Please here on SingleBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. So tapped out of content you will not believe it, but there is something I would like to talk about. So, I've made it very clear over the past few weeks that I hold in utter disdain, absolute disdain, the concept, the very idea of Ruby Sanctum. Now, why would I do that? I'm alright with raid content. I've got no problem with that, at all. No issue whatsoever with them bringing raid content into the game. The problem that I have, in fact, is that they think a single boss dungeon is going to keep people happy until Cataclysm launch. Now, as regards to when it's launching, we don't know, do we? We have no idea. I mean, I would personally guess November, but then again, they also said it would be out before BlizzCon, but then again, they never confirmed that. I don't believe that any site, in fact, has guessed at a release date as of yet. Well, they probably have, but I'd imagine they're not particularly correct in that assumption. Let's go and have a look, shall we? Let's go and have a look at what does Amazon have to say about Cataclysm? Do they have any date for it? No? Not by the looks of it? Available to pre-order? No idea when it's coming out. Okay, nothing whatsoever. So, let's go on the wonderful site of GameStop, who are always good at guessing randomly. Let's have a look at them, let's see what they have to say about it. Cataclysm, when does that come out? Tell me. They don't know. They don't have any idea at all. Not a clue. But it's okay, because they've got the Cataclysm official strategy guide available for pre-order. So, you can guess at maybe November. November makes sense, honestly. November is it's the premium month for selling games. That said, of course, bear in mind that expansion packs don't necessarily need to be in November. They don't. They don't need to. So, it might be earlier. So, if it's around... Have a think about it. I mean, it's in alpha now. When did the TBC alpha happen? When did the Wrath alpha happen? When was the Wrath alpha leaks? Let's go on a field trip, shall we? Let's go to Google and find out. Wrath alpha leaks. Alpha leak compendium. That was in... The last post in that was on 20th of May, 2008. Alpha leak. What do we got? Yeah, it was around May time, by the looks of it. That's from what I can tell. No, actually, earlier than that even. By the looks of it. Live alpha leaks. So the stuff around there was around the 30th of April-ish, but there were even more alpha leaks before that. But let's just assume that it was about 6 months before release, which would be correct. So, if they're in alpha right now, and we're only just starting to get alpha leaks, then we can assume that it's what? 6 months down the line, which would say that it is actually around November? Think about it. It could be the case. It's a bit distressing, isn't it? But one way or the other, we've got a long time to wait. We've got about 6 months to wait until this expansion, I would guess. And indeed, that's all anyone can do right now, guess. Now, in the meantime, we've been sitting on this raid instance for 6 months. By the time that Cataclysm comes out, ICC will be a year old. And there will have been no major raid content in between then and now. Nothing. We'll have some events, yeah? There'll be some in-game events, the stuff in 3.9, the retaking of Echo Isles. Yeah, a quest line that'll probably take less than half a day or so. In the meantime, what a raiding guild's going to do? They'll do exactly what they did before the launch of every expansion, about 6 months before each. Die. They will die. And it amazes me now, this being the third expansion, that Blizzard hasn't worked out a way to stop that from happening yet. Every time this has been an issue, and it's been related to a great number of things. Firstly, you get raid burnout and you get raid stagnation and raid guild death as a result of the impending change of gear level. The thought is this: why bother spending so much time in game when all of my stuff is just going to be rendered irrelevant anyway in a couple of months? So, guilds disband. What's the point of doing this raid content when it's going to be rendered utterly pointless and no one's even going to remember it in a couple of months? When those achievements and those titles and the mounts and the gear that you get are rendered utterly worthless because some dude in greens has better stats than me now. That kind of thing. The fact that that can still happen after 6 years is pretty ridiculous. One would think, one would assume that they'd have something that would fix that. One would assume that they would have another raid dungeon ready to go. Something of reasonable size, perhaps. I mean, we've been on this for 6 months. Surely 6 months is long enough for a raid instance, surely. That's a lot of time, ladies and gentlemen. 168 hours I calculated. That was a conservative estimate for a casual raiding guild. Consider how many hours have been spent by other guilds. Twice that, 3 times even. In ICC. Surely it's time for some more content, and surely that content should consist of a little bit more than a single boss. But no, apparently not. Blizzard believes otherwise. Blizzard is smoking crack, perhaps. One must assume. Here's the thing. When you get up to crunch time on your expansion and you enter alpha state, then you're going to divert an awful lot of your resources in order to make that expansion reach the release date on time, in a good state. As we saw, that didn't quite work out for Wrath, did it? No. Indeed, Wrath has been the prime example of every one of these going horribly, horrendously wrong. 6 months at the start of Wrath was how long we had to wait doing Nax Ramas. 2 months after the launch of Wrath, I quit Wrath for ages. As I recall, Blue Please went on a hiatus at that point. It would make sense, wouldn't it? Then we had Ulduar, which was really cool. Then I burned out on Ulduar because we had to wait ages for TOC. We finally got that stupid Colosseum thing. It lasted barely a week. Then the hard modes on there were killed by the top guilds fairly quickly. And then we had to wait ages for ICC as well, so we were stuck on there. It wasn't so bad, the transition between TOC and ICC. Let's go and have a look at timing, shall we? When did they come out? When did patch 3.2 come out? 3.2 release date, patch. There we go. 3.2's release date. Let's have a look. WoW Wiki. Here we go. 3.2 boy down. When did that come out? 4th of August 2009. So, August, September, October, November, December. So that was 5 months between that. It really has been about 6 months' time between each, hasn't it? When did 3.1 come out? I've got to be interested in this one now. So, 3.2 came out on the 4th of August. 3.1 came out on... When the hell did it come out? The 14th of April, as it happens. So, actually, that, more so than anything, was probably the best gap. It was the shortest. It was the least ridiculous. You're looking at the 4th to the 8th. So 4 month. 4 month gap between Ulduar and TOC, and then about 6 months between TOC and the Ice Crown Citadel. And now we've got 6 months again before the release of what should be, one would assume, a TOC-sized instance with hard modes, which is not what we're getting. We're getting a one-boss instance with a hard mode, a single hard mode, which I would imagine will be raffle-stomped within a very short period of time. And if it's not, bear this in mind. You know what I was saying about the problem with binary hard modes, where you've got an easy and a hard difficulty but no normal, and you've got no little bit harder normal, or little bit easier normal, or little bit less difficult than hard, you know. Instead of having a scale of 1 to 10, you've got 0 and 1. As in, either you enjoy 0 or you enjoy 1. There is no middle ground at all. That problem is multiplied exponentially by the fact that there is only one boss in there. I can guarantee, ladies and gentlemen, that there is going to be a huge chunk of the raiding player base that is put out by that boss. And the reason they're going to be put out by it is it's going to have 2 difficulty settings, and that's it. 2. Just 2. Now, those difficulty settings are either going to be too hard for a lot of people, or too easy for a lot of people, and then some people, just a small fraction, might find them just right. Therein lies the problem, and there's the worst thing about it. In something like ICC, at least you can have variance in the difficulty of the bosses, because there are more than one of them. It's kind of important, is it not? When there's only one boss, which there is, it's a Sartharian-style encounter, it's one boss plus 3 minis. We know that the minis are not going to be a challenge, the main boss might be for a little while. You got a huge number of people that are alienated by that. This is the time for another TOC-style instance. Now, I am shocked and, quite frankly, appalled that Blizzard was able to actually take their level of laziness to an entirely new plane of existence. When TOC first came out, I called it the laziest instance ever designed. Then, of course, I retracted that and said, no, it's only the second laziest instance ever designed. The first is, of course, the Vault of Archivon. Now, it's the third most lazy instance ever designed. Because now we have the Vault of Archivon and the Ruby Sanctum. So, not only am I now going to have to, relatively speaking, say that TOC was okay. Oh, I hate doing that. I really do. Because objectively speaking, TOC was not okay. TOC was garbage. An incredibly boring instance. All of it, aside from one boss, done in the same circular arena. Relatively imaginative, but nonetheless not particularly great bosses. Not particularly challenging outside of hard mode. We saw a massive disparity between normal and hard modes. As in, you had your normal modes, and then you had your hard modes, and your hard mode Northrend beasts were so ridiculously difficult in comparison to the normal Northrend beasts. Which again is fine, hard encounters are fine, but what you have there is a situation where you alienate a huge chunk of your player base. Because you've got guys that can't get past the Northrend beasts, and then you've got guys that can do the Northrend beasts, but the huge selection of those that can't do the Northrend beasts were also the guys that stomped the main mode, the normal mode. Therein lies the issue. Such a huge leap, such a huge gap to get across for the vast majority of players. I have no problem with hard, but I do have a problem when it's just easy and hard. But even then, in comparison to this, TOC is a goddamn Eden. It is the pinnacle of raid design. It is the most imaginative, best textured, amazing, creative, wonderful, awe-inspiring instance in comparison to Ruby frickin' Sanctum. And for God's sake, you just have a look at the damn thing. It's even used the same terrain in many areas as Obsidian Sanctum. It uses models that are 5 to 6 years old. No new models of any description that I can tell. Even the main dragon dude is just a reskinned dragon. The dragon that we have seen for, oh yes, how long would that be? Oh yes, 6 years. Same drakes, same chromatic guards, same drakenkin bastards, same whelps. All of them. This is what Blizzard after 6 months has come up with. You should be as appalled as I am at that, honestly. Now, this causes the death of so many guilds, and they must realise that it causes a huge drop in subscription. This is what I don't get. There is a monetary reason to provide more raid content right now. A huge monetary incentive for Blizzard. And money, money, money surely is what the business is all about. And do you blame them for that? No, of course not. They're a business. That's fine. Activision surely must be saying, guys, your subs are dropping by, 5-6 figures here on a weekly basis. Surely you're going to do something about it, right? Yeah, sure, we've got this great instance. What is it? The Ruby Sanctum. How many bosses has it got? 1. 6 months, 1 boss. It's appalling. And if they have diverted too many resources to developing Cataclysm, then may I make a small suggestion? Based on the fact that Blizzard are potentially the most well-funded development studio on the planet. I don't think I'd be going out of bounds to suggest that. Bearing in mind, of course, that Blizzard have, what now, almost 2 decades, in fact, possibly 2 decades of development experience. Bearing all that in mind, may I make a small suggestion? And also, of course, bearing in mind the financial state and the money flowing in from subscriptions on a monthly basis, may I make a small suggestion? Hire more resources. My name is Tall Biscuit. You're listening to Blue Please here on cynicalgrit.com. I'll be right back after the break to take your emails, ladies and gents, so drop them into me, murloc@gmail.com. That is the murloc@gmail.com. Throw some emails at me, we'll do some illusion of choice, whatever, we'll get the show over with. Because I've got nothing else to say. So if you guys want to suggest some stuff, then by all means. In the meantime, we'll play some Night Rage. This is Descent into Chaos. Enjoy.